Hey everybody, how's it going? Haven't done an interview in a couple of months. I've been busy doing something else, actually another project that's pretty much like Dixiecryptid. We're going to announce it in a couple of weeks. However, I have been emailing back and forth with John, our guest for this interview, and he's given me some high points of some of his encounters. He's from the same part of the country that I am. You're going to be able to hear it with his accent, and he's just a hell of a good guy. And he's agreed to come on and talk about some of his experiences. And John, I just want to welcome you to the video. How's everything going over there in Arkansas, man?
It's a little warm, Cam, but everything's going fine. Thank you for having me.
We talked about it. Mosquitoes about to carry you away.
Well, fortunately, I'm not in the Delta part of the country anymore, but they are whenever you get over in the swampland, I promise you.
Yeah, John and I were talking about, I lived up in northeast Arkansas for years, and we were talking about those mutant zebra leopard mosquitoes that got blew up with Katrina, and they decided to stay, and they're about big around as a bumblebee, and they've got stripes on them.
That they are. Those things will carry you off. I'm going to tell you they're bad.
Yeah. So we, John and I have a little bit in common in that we were probably born and raised in the same general area. But John's got a lot of experience with Bigfoot. And John, I just want to ask you to just tell our audience and start wherever you'd like and just tell us your story. Just go for it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Cam. I will. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to start basically from the beginning whenever I was very young. I grew up on a farm, and I think I've actually, you've told this story. I emailed it to you. And it was in southwest Arkansas, a little town called Foreman. And there's a highway that stretches between Foreman, Arkansas, and New Boston, Texas. It actually goes into the Sulphur River bottoms over around Bajou Creek. So I grew up in that area up till I was, in my early childhood, 7, 8 years old. And, I grew up on a 1,500 acre farm, so I had to run of it. And I had some experiences when I was very young, 5, 6 years old. And I never said anything about it until I was on up in years. I think I was 35 before I ever told anybody, and that was my brother. It was just one of those things that it happened when you're little, and I don't know, it was just kind of odd whenever I look back. I pick up bits and pieces of the things that I remember that kind of stuck with me, and my memory got better about what happened as I got older and actually recollected what happened in the past. But,
right.
Yeah. And anyway, when I was older, we moved up to kind of central eastern Arkansas with my grandparents whenever they were getting older and couldn't take care of themselves. My father moved us up here and put us back in the area that he grew up hunting and fishing in when he was just a young man. They actually cleared that land where they had their farm with mules and crosscut saws. So, needless to say, got some deep roots there, to say the least. Anyway, he got me hunting down there when I was a child, younger age, and you always had the feeling something was watching you or something wasn't quite right. Something was different. But kind of the same feeling I had when I was down in Foreman, but only had that feeling when I went to this area. It wasn't like whenever I was at home up in the hill country, which is around another part of the state there that's probably 30 miles from where they were at, where the farm was. Anyway, you could tell the difference in the atmosphere, I guess you could say. So, I never thought a lot about it. I never was uncomfortable per se to be frightened to go in the woods, because I grew up hunting and fishing and, squirrel hunting and deer hunting, mostly squirrel hunting when I was a kid, and fishing the bayous in that area. And, there would be times where you catch a mess fish and put them on a stringer and walk off somewhere else to fish and come back and something was moved, so something had been there, but you didn't know what it was. and it wasn't any tracks or anything like that to pick up on, but your stringer had been moved, or your bait bucket had been moved somewhere. Well, nothing can move a bait bucket without picking it up and knocking it over.
Yep.
You got to pick it up and move it.
Yeah.
And it'd be moved 10 foot from where it was. So it's kind of alarming that something was out there that that had the ability to do that. And there was nobody else around, because we're 5 miles from the closest residence or anything. I mean, it was farm roads going back there to where we were hunting and fishing at. So there's no way anybody could be there, just us. But anyway, as I grew older, we ended up building a camp down in these woods. And it's 4 miles by ATV or 6 miles by boat to get to them. Well, we put this camp together, and all these times we'd had, I'd been, be out there hunting, and you'd walking through the woods, squirrel hunting, and you're looking at the trees, and you catch something move out of your peripheral vision, and you look and it wouldn't be there. But when you start moving again, you'd hear it, and you could see it out of your, you see something moving, and you look and it's gone again. So, there's something there. There's always something there. But, you'd shoot a squirrel out of a tree and it'd land in the thicket, and you'd turn and shoot another one, and you'd go pick one up and go to pick the other one up, and you knew right where it landed, and it was gone. It just disappeared, and the squirrel was shot out stone cold dead. It wasn't going anywhere by itself.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
I get this a lot, and this is off topic, but we've done a few squirrel hunting stories. I grew up shooting squirrels with a shotgun. How did y'all kill them?
I kill them with a shotgun.
I always get these comments on videos going, "Who in the world shoots a squirrel with a shotgun?" I'm like, heck, man, that's all I ever use. I have used a 22 in the winter when all the leaves are off.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry to go off on a tangent, but you brought up a topic. I wanted to hear how you killed them.
We hunt with a shotgun because we're hunting squirrels to eat. We're not hunting them for just sport. We're hunting squirrels to eat.
I always used a 16 gauge because I like those purple shells. They're real pretty.
Yeah, that's what my mother shot whenever I was growing up. After she had her first heart attack. She shot a 22 single shot, and she had her first heart attack, and she couldn't hold a 22 still anymore, so she started shooting a 16 gauge single barrel, H&R, and that's matter of fact, I've got that gun in my gun safe right now.
Don't you think those shells are pretty? Those purple shells?
They are. Yeah, they are. I love them purple shells. I did. I love them purple shells, and I'd pick them up and. I still find one every once in a while. I pick it up, stick it in my pocket because it reminds me of my mama.
Yeah. And the brass on it will be all rusty and everything, but you still hang on to it, don't you?
That's right. Matter of fact, it might have been one my mother had shot.
Okay, back to your story. I apologize for sidetracking you.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Believe me. Anyway, like I was saying, whenever you felt like there was something out there, you shoot a squirrel out. Or two squirrels, and it would never happen with one, because when you shoot one out, you always just go pick it up. But if you shoot 2 or 3 squirrels out, they hit in different places, and they're dead because you're watching when they hit the ground, and you know where they are, and you go pick one of them up, and you go pick the second one up, and you go pick the third one up, and it's gone. Well, what happened? No coyote or no fox or no critter is going to come up there and get that while you're there, because they're not going to be coming around you. That's not going to happen. So what did it? I've been deer hunting where you shoot a deer, bow or rifle, either one, it doesn't drop right there. It runs somewhere, and you got to trail it. And you're trailing this animal through the woods on a blood trail that looks like you took a 5-gallon bucket and just dumped blood out. And you get to a certain point, and it just stops. It's gone. No blood trail, no nothing. You backtrack, see if that deer had stepped off one side or another. And I'm not talking about hunting for a couple hours. I'm talking about hunting for several days looking for that deer, trying to find out where it went. And it just disappears. You don't find a carcass. The buzzards never circle, so you don't find buzzards where they've eaten it. you never find a trace of this deer. And it's a kill shot. I mean, there's no way this animal could have lived through it. And it just disappear. Okay? So, I'm not saying that Bigfoot or Sasquatch, whatever people call it, is doing it, but I'm sure not saying it's not, because it's more than likely what is happening. But back to my story about the camp we built. We built a 22 by 30 cabin that's 4 miles back off the road, 6 miles by boat, 4 miles by ATV to get in there. It's all self-sufficient. And, after I'd been there working on this place, I mean, this took several years to build this to the point it's at right now. But but you would hear noises at night. Let's see. I'll tell you the one that really got me the most was, how a kid will take a stick and run it back and forth on a picket fence, and it tick, 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 tick. You know what it sounds?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this cabin has got a porch. It's 8 foot wide from the edge of the cabin out to the end, and the boards are laid from the cabin to the outside of the porch, so they're long ways. Well, it's got spaces between them, for the dirt to fall through, and you can keep it clean. Well, at night, you would hear something taking a stick and running it back and forth across that porch in one spot. Tap, 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 tap. They'd do it for a couple of hours at a time. It would happen. So, that was one thing. Then I was duck hunting at one point in time, and down there, I mean, I duck hunt all the time, but at one point in time, I had my boat pulled up on the bank, and I had it tied off. And I always tie my boat off, and I always pull it up on the bank where it can't go anywhere. Been doing this for 40 years. Well, I'd gone somewhere, and my brother happened to be down here with me. He walked outside, and my boat was gone. So, and there's no way anybody could get there. There's no boat traffic up there at this point in time ever. So it's just basically me and my brother. But something had, I tied my boat up. I always took the bow line and tied it around a tree and looped it, pulled it back through in a slip knot where you just grab the loose end and pull it, and it unties it. Well, somebody or something had just pulled that slip knot, untied it, and threw the rope in the boat and pushed it off in the water. Well, my brother comes out and sees my boat's gone. And he looks down the bayou, and he sees my boat floating down the bayou about 100 yards. So he grabs a pirogue and jumps in the pirogue and goes down there and gets my boat. And he notices when he gets there that the bow line is laying in the boat. Well, he knows me. I always tie that boat. I never, ever not tie my boat. I've done that one time when I was young and learned a very valuable lesson. So, as a matter of fact, I had to swim because of it. So, that's something you don't forget to do. So, anyway, he got my boat, brought it back, which was fine. But, it's never any damage done. It's never anything. It's like curiosity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's something that's just curious. It wants to interact, but it wants to do it on its own, at its own rate. It's not going to, it don't want you forcing anything. We've heard knocks. You'd be sitting outside around a campfire and you hear wood knocks, on trees, limb against a tree. Well, it's always 3 at a time. It's never 1. It's never 2. It's never 4. It's always 3. 1, 2, 3 in sequence. So my brother, he picked up on some of that, but he wasn't. This is before I'd ever told him what had happened to me. Anyway, one night we were staying down there and I left. Well, my stepdaughter was there with him, and I had to go to the Pine Bluff I had to go somewhere for something, get groceries or do something. Well, I ended up having to stay the night because my father got sick, and I had to stay the night to take care of him. My brother didn't know this. We didn't have phones down there. There wasn't any cell phone signal anyway. Well, about 3 o'clock in the morning, he wakes up to something walking around on the porch. Now, this porch is built sturdy, so you don't make racket when you step up on it. And this was shaking the overhanging roof that come out over the porch. It was shaking it. It was, whatever it was, so heavy. Well, he thought it was me. So he's laying there in bed expecting me to come through the door any minute, and I never did. So he's lay there probably 15 minutes, and all of a sudden he hears 3 knocks on the wall of that cabin. Well, he says, well, he locks the doors. Well, he said, well, he's outside, can't get in. I'll get up and open the door and let him in. Well, he walks out to the door and opens the door and walks out, and I'm nowhere around. There's no four-wheeler that's come in, so he thought maybe I'd run out of gas or something. My boat was there, of course, tied up, so the only way I'd come in and out was by four-wheeler. Well, anyway, he knew I didn't drive up, so he thought I'd run out of gas and walked up there. Well, he said, well, and then he thought I was messing with him. He goes, okay, John, you can come out. Well, I never, of course I wasn't there, so I didn't answer. And he kept on, all right, come on now, quit messing with me, come on in here. Well, I wasn't there, so it wasn't me. Well, he goes back in and shuts the door and decides he'd go ahead and make coffee and get ready for the morning. So he made coffee up and everything, getting ready, and he started hearing that kicking on the porch outside. Well, the whole time he's inside making coffee, getting things ready, he's hollering for me to come on in there because I quit messing with him. Well, he just kept on. Well, and finally he just gets tired of it and says, well, you'll come in here when you get ready. And he goes back to bed. Well, he lays back down and gets settled in. And my stepdaughter, she says, what was that? He said, oh, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. And then just right over the top of his head on the wall behind, of the outside wall, he hears another 3 knocks. Bam, bam, bam. And that's when he about to come unglued. It really scared him because it knew right where he was in that cabin at all the time, and he didn't realize that.
I bet.
Yeah. So anyway, I come in about 6 o'clock. I got there because I got up early, and my dad was doing better, so I just loaded. I'd come on back down there, and I drove in. I got there about 6 o'clock in the morning, and he was up, of course, waiting on me. And I walked in the door. He said, what's going on down here? And I just looked at him. I said, you finally found out, didn't you? I said, you finally had something happen. He said, yeah, I did. And he told me what happened. And I grinned, because it's funny to me because I knew this had always gone on with me. I mean, the whole time I've been down there, I've had interactions. I've had acorns being thrown and clods of dirt being thrown on that cabin from, wood. Clods of dirt and acorns that when there's no trees over the top of that cabin can't fall on that roof. There's no way. So something's out there throwing clods of dirt and throwing acorns hitting the top of that cabin. So, I've had this happen all the time. Well, it started happening to him now because it's whatever it is has gotten comfortable with him and started interacting. I can go on and on about these things that happen, and everybody will chalk it up. Well, that was just, acorns falling off a tree. It's okay. Well, I guess that's dirt clods falling off a tree too.
Right. Well, now you were talking earlier about an experience you had when you were a little kid. Is that just circumstantial, kind of anecdotal things happen, or have you actually had an encounter as a kid?
Oh, I had an encounter when I was a child, and I've had encounters since then that I just didn't state through my story. Now, the encounter when I was a child is, I had a little Honda 50 mini trail that my father bought me when I was 5 years old. Well, I used to ride that little Honda 50 mini trail all over that farm. Well, when I rounded into the Bajou, going back to the back side of our farm, there was a pecan grove, and just a small, 4 or 5 big pecan trees right there on the edge of the Bajou bank. And we used to park equipment under them and stuff like that. Whenever they get done with the equipment, they bring it up there in the shade and park it. Well, I come around there on my motorcycle, and I pulled up under these pecan trees and parked. I always do that. I'd go there and watch for squirrel. And I pulled up there and stopped. Well, the Bajou bank is about 30 feet from the edge of the road. And I'm probably 10 foot off the road and 20 foot away from the Bajou bank. And I pull up and stop. I turn the motorcycle off. And something, what I thought was a stump, it's on the edge of the biobank that I'd never noticed before, but it was there. It stood up. The stump stands up and turns and looks dead at me. And, you know, the eyes is what got me. The eyes were just like a golden brown. They weren't, but they weren't menacing. And it was a female. I know that for sure. At least, you know, what I thought when I was little, what a female should look like, you know, the breast. And, you know, what was so strange about that is when it stood up and turned around, it turned kind of a half around posture where its waist was kind of sideways, but its upper torso was turned toward me. It didn't have much of a neck. It was kind of it wasn't a domed head or pointed head, but it was taller than most, you know, than a normal person's head would be. People call these things apes. Well, the face on this creature is nothing like an ape. I mean, it had a protruded brow. I remember that. I remember this had very little facial hair. It had some down on the, you know, around the neck, but as far as on the face, it didn't have much facial hair. It had a wide nose. The lips were thin. They weren't big, thick, or anything like that. They were kind of a thin lip. And it never opened its mouth, so I couldn't tell you if it had, you know, canine teeth or if it had flat teeth or what. I can't tell you that because I don't know. But the way it looked at me, it was like it looked right into my soul. And I just felt that I didn't need to say anything about it. It was like, I don't know, I didn't need to talk about it. I wasn't scared. I don't know why, but I wasn't scared.
How old were you?
I was 5 years old.
5? Oh, man.
5. And, you know, I used to ride that farm. You know, when I got that motorcycle, I was all over that farm. But from where I told you, where I rounded that bow and it drove with pecan trees, from there on behind that farm, which butted up to the Red River, that separated Arkansas from Texas, that whole area had that eerie feeling like you were being watched all the time. Well, we had 2 Indian mounds that were on that property. It was actually behind that bow. There were 2 big Indian mounds, and my father actually planted wheat on and around these Indian mounds. And I guess maybe, I don't know, I'm American Indian. I've got Cherokee Indian blood. Matter of fact, I'm a card carrying Cherokee Indian. So, you know, I've got proof of that. And I always thought maybe that was, you know, maybe this creature was there to guard those Indian mounds. I don't know.
Do you get in the casinos free? Do you get in the casino for free?
Yeah, everybody can get in for free.
That's
you
right.
Don't get out for free.
That's right. I've got a weird sense of humor. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're right. We can all go in them for free. It just costs a lot to get out of them.
You get a free beer when you go in there or something?
Well, if you want to call it free, you always got to be playing some kind of machine or on a table.
I don't have anything but white, German, Irish, and Scott blood in me. I don't have anything of color, so I'm just at a disadvantage.
No, not necessarily. Believe me, that German carry you a long ways too now.
That's true. Yeah.
And the Scottish are quite colorful.
So you saw this thing, and did it just walk off, John, or did it?
Yeah.
Can you remember at 5 years old what it did?
I remember exactly what it did now. I didn't want to remember it when I was then, or I just wouldn't talk about it. But yeah, I remember exactly what it did. It turned, it looked at me for what seemed like an eternity. And it probably wasn't just a few seconds. But it turned and looked at me. It wasn't aggressive. It never made an attempt to walk toward me. It just turned, and it was, like I said, it had its hip facing me, its left hip facing me, and it turned its torso and looked at me, and it was looking down, And then it just, whenever it made eye contact and just stood there, it just turned and just walked away. It walked right down the bio bank and disappeared into the brush. And, you know, that was in 1970. That was in 74. 1974 is when that happened.
And you didn't tell your daddy about it or anything?
I never told my dad about it, ever. I never told him about it. I never told my mother about it. I never told anybody. The only person I told about it was my brother, and that was 30 years later.
Why do you think, was it just so odd? Did it seemed unreal, or did it just seem like a normal course of events for you? I wonder why. I think I would have run inside, Daddy, you can't believe what I just saw.
Yeah, and that's what I thought I would do. You know, now when I look back, why didn't I? You know, why didn't I? But through the Native American lore, they say they've got a hypnotic effect over you if you look in their eyes.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe that's why I didn't tell anybody for so many years. And until things started happening to me here, where I hunt now, and all of these many years I've been here, because I've been here for 40 years hunting where I'm at now, and had all these things happening to me over this last 40 years here, brought all that back. It was like it reignited that memory from what happened to me when I was a child.
So as time goes on, do you remember your next encounter?
Yes, I do. It was many years after that. It was probably I'm going to say 90. Zach was born in 90, so I'm going to say it was 1992 was my next encounter. And that was in this place where I hunt, in this management area where I hunt. This camp that we have, I would hang my ducks on it. Whenever I come in from hunting, I'd hang my ducks on the front porch and clean them the next day after the hunt. I always waited a day and then I'd clean them. That's just the way I did with ducks. You know, it seemed to me like they tenderized better and they were better if I let them sit a day before I cleaned them.
I think you're right.
Yes. So anyway, about once every 2 or 3 days, a couple of ducks would come up missing off that porch. I mean, these were, I had them looped and, secured around the neck, so you had to untie it to get them off. But these things were like they were plucked off of a branch of a vine. The heads were popped off. And, the body would be gone, but the head would still be there.
Right.
All right. And it would happen. There might be a dozen ducks out there, but there'd be only 2 or 3 missing. Never found any feathers. Never found any carcasses. So whatever took them with them. An animal doesn't do that. An animal will pull it down and eat it right there.
That's right.
So they would disappear. Well, I started hunting closer to my camp and back up in a real thick area that I normally didn't hunt. Well, I was hunting and I found a big blow-down treetop that was up out of the water, because this is all flooded timber. Whenever it rains and floods, it all floods this timber out. Well, I found this tree that had been blown over, and up in that tree, it looked like an overhang of limbs had been put on it and just piled up, crisscross stacked and broken, and these weren't limbs that were, rotten. These were green limbs, some of them as big as your wrist, had been twisted off and put there. And they didn't come from a tree around there. They were brought there from somewhere. Well, I mean, it's just like an overhang canopy over this big down tree. Well, I got to looking, and there were stones on this log. Something had been eating animals, and I found duck feathers, and, I found squirrel hides, and never found anything but the hide. That's what got me. So whatever it was, You know, I knew it was something, but I didn't know what. Well, the next morning I decided I'd go in there hunting. Well, the wind was hitting me in my face, and I'm walking back up in here, and I'm going real slow and easy in this flooded timber because the water's probably a little over ankle deep, so I'm able to scoop my feet and move real quiet. Well, I'm moving real quiet through the timber, and I get probably 50 yards from this structure that I'd found the day before. And I hear something, and I smell something. And the smell is, it's hard to explain. It's you know how a squirrel smells?
Skunky.
Yeah, kind of a sharp smell. Kind of a sharp smell to it, right?
Yeah.
That's what this smelled like, but it was a lot stronger. So, whatever it was, it had been big, what I thought, but I didn't know what it was because nothing smells like a squirrel but a squirrel. Anyway, I'm sitting here and I smell that. The wind's blowing in my face. I'm smelling this. I'm like, what is this? And, I mean, I'm already thinking something's going on. And I walk toward this structure, and when I do, I hear the water splash. And I'm probably 30 yards from it now. And I see this figure come out from under this overhang. And this figure is big. I mean, it's very big. And we're talking, this is early in the morning. It's just barely getting light. I mean, it's just, you know how you can see the streaks of light in the sky, but no, you know, it's still dark in the timber. So that's what I'm looking at. And I see the ripples coming off of it when it comes out from under this overhang, steps in the water. And it's just huge. I mean, it's the one that I saw when I was in Foreman down in that part of the country on Choctaw Bajou was small compared to this. This thing was unbelievable. I mean, it was 8 feet plus tall and wide across the shoulders, but it was slim, kind of slimmer around the waist. It didn't have a big torso. What, you know, you would expect something to have if it's wide shoulders, to have a bigger torso too, but it didn't. It was just a kind of a slim torso. The legs were slim. I mean, I could tell that because whenever he'd walk, you could see the space between the legs. You could see it. And it stepped about 3 steps out, turned, and looked at me, and just kind of made a half turn around a big tree, and that's the last I saw it. How it got away from me, because the timber's wide open. You know, it's thick around it, but there's, you know, you could see something moving through the water. You know, at least you'd see the ripples from the water or something, hear it. I never heard a thing. Never saw a ripple. Nothing. It just disappeared like it went up in smoke. Yes. And that was the next encounter, and that was in 94, I believe it was. Yeah, 94, 92 or 94.
You didn't have time to get a real good look at it and look at facial features or anything like that?
No. I've never been able to do that again. Never been able to see anything like that again.
Now, what did you do? What did you do after you saw that? Did you just hightail it out of those woods, or what'd you do?
Well, I felt like I was intruding.
Right.
Because it wasn't where I was supposed to be. So I did leave, but I didn't run. I just eased away from it and got away from it and left it alone. I figured if it wanted to be around me, it'd come find me. You know, I felt like I was intruding in its territory then. I was wrong. And I feel like I was. I feel like I did wrong by going back there. I probably should have even gone back. But my curiosity got the better of it. So anyway, that was the next encounter. There's been many times that I've seen something and know what it was, but can't say, well, yeah, I've seen this figure running on 2 legs and had swinging arms and all. No, I'm not going to tell you that because it's not the case. These things are like ghosts. They can disappear and you're looking at them.
That is so crazy.
It is. It is. It's like they're there and then they're not. It's just they know those woods. It's like it's their living room. That's their home. They know them better than we could ever know them. I mean, that's where they live every day. So you know, whenever you go to them woods, you're in their domain. You're in their home.
Yeah.
And if they want you, I don't care. You know, if they want to attack you or whatever, they can. I had an encounter that scared me very bad back in 1997 when we built our camp. And I woke up. I went squirrel hunting one afternoon. And this time it was cool. The leaves were off the trees. And I went on our private property and walked out there, and I sat down next to a big old oak tree. And I was sitting there, and I had a .22 rifle. You know, like I said, the leaves were off the trees. And I was just sitting there, you know, enjoying the evening. It was cool. It was nice. The kids were at the cabin with my girlfriend that I was dating at the time, and I just needed some peace. I didn't need to get away from it. And anyway, I went down and sat down next to this big tree. It was late in the afternoon, probably an hour before dark, and I just got comfortable. It was nice. It was quiet, cool, and just really nice. And I fell asleep. I just fell smooth asleep.
Yeah. Guilty. I'm guilty of that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, no big deal. We all do it. If you hunt and you go out there and you get comfortable, you go to sleep.
That's right.
Well, I woke up and it was almost slap dark. I mean, it was, you know, streaks of light, you know, where the sun was set. It had already set. It had already gone behind the trees and it was setting. So it was dark in the woods, but it's still a little light in the sky. But when I woke up, I had this feeling that I was in trouble. Like something was wrong. Something was bad wrong, and I didn't know what it was. And I mean, that's the first time I've ever been scared in the woods, ever. And I was 30 years old at the time, over 30. I'm still 97. I'm 52 now. So I was in my mid 30s, wasn't it? I think somewhere along in there. Yeah. Anyway, you know, I woke up and I mean, like I said, it was just like a panic fear set over me. Like something was going to get me. I mean, I don't know why I felt that way at first, but I stood up, but I stood up after I looked around to make sure nothing was around me that I could see. I stood up with my back to the tree. You know, I kind of slid up the tree. So back then I could do that. I'm not old and stiff like I am now. So, but anyway, I was looking around. I never could see anything, but I could feel something. You could just feel it. Well, I started making my way back to the road that bordered our property going into our camp. And I started making my way back to the road. And every time I'd take a step, I'd hear something else take a step. And I'd go to take a step and wouldn't put my foot down, and I'd hear it take that step. And that's what really got me, because I couldn't see it. It was dark enough that I couldn't see whatever it was. Well, I finally decided to take off running and get to the road where I could be in a little open area where I could have some way of advantage to, I don't know if they defend myself, but at least I could see what was coming at me. Well, I took off running, and I felt something on my back. I don't know what it was. It may have been a limb. That's what I'm going to say it was, because I don't know. I'm not going to say it grabbed me or whatever, because I don't know. But I know whenever I got back to the camp, I had scratches down my back.
Wow.
So, yeah. Anyway, I get back to the road, and I turn around, and I'm looking, and I got this little pea shooter in my hand, which is a .22 rifle, which is not going to stop anything short of a coyote at best. It's something, whatever it was. It wasn't a coyote. This scared me too bad for that. But I turn around, and I stop, and I hear this god awful scream. I mean, this scream sounded like, oh God, it was a high pitched scream, kind of like a screech owl, but about 10 times louder. I mean, I'm sure you've heard what a screech owl sounds like.
You know, I don't know if I would know one if I heard one, but I've heard some weird sounds. I kind of know what you're talking about. Well,
it's a scream. It sounds like a woman screaming, and a dog squalling like it got hurt. You know, kind of a mixture of that, but okay. It's real high pitch. You'd know it when you hear a screech owl. You'd say, "God, this got to be a screech owl or a demon." but that's what I heard. But it was coming from the other side of our property. This has got a 40-acre property. It runs quarter by quarter by quarter. It makes 40 acres. Well, this was coming from the far northwest corners where this sound came from. Well, whenever that happened, I heard something out in front of me, probably 40 yards in the brush, in the leaves, walking back toward that noise. Just heard. And it was going back toward that scream. So, and after it went that way, I could hear it moving away from me. Then I hightailed it to the cabin. Got the heck out of there.
Right.
That's the only time I've ever been afraid or even felt like I was threatened in the woods ever in my life.
So you didn't actually see it, but you knew it was there.
I felt it was there.
Right.
I felt it. If you've ever been in a situation, you can ask anybody that's been in the military that if they've ever just felt like somebody was there, somebody was watching them, they'd tell you, yeah, you know it. If somebody's watching you, you feel it. But this was almost like oh God, it's hard to explain it. It's like a primal fear. Like you don't know what's going on, but you shouldn't be there or something's fixing to happen. And you just felt it in your body. Something was going on and your senses just start, heightening. You get more and more alert about what's going on around you. You start hearing things. Your senses pick up on things quicker. I don't know if it was, I've never been threatened by any of them, by anything, never felt threatened until then. So it makes me wonder if maybe that was one that was maybe retarded, may have something wrong with him. So, and it's very possible. I guess, why wouldn't it be?
Oh, look. Anything is possible with these things. The things that they do are so outside the realm of our understanding. Just the things you've talked about here today. It's like, I don't know. It's so hard to get your mind around it. I'm always trying to be, and I use this phrase a lot, critical thinking skills. And I've said before, they can't, tangible biological objects cannot just appear and disappear out of nowhere. But they do. I don't think they're vanishing. I just think they know, they understand through their life, and they're taught lines of sight, obstacles to make yourself disappear, get down on the ground. A lot of them, you hear they get flat on the ground and they crawl on their ground. And, if you're looking like that one you saw in that big blow down treetop when you went to check that out, is it possible he could have got behind a tree trunk, dropped down flat to the ground, and you're looking 6 or 8 feet up, but you're not looking at the ground? Even if he's 20 yards away, you're still not looking for any movement on the ground. You're looking for something up to silhouette the light behind it. So anyway, the point is these things do such crazy things that it's hard to get your mind around it.
That's right. What got me, if it dropped to the ground, it would have been in the water. I would still be able to see the ripples from the water, I would think. Wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I never saw a ripple in the water. I never saw anything. It just got behind that tree and was gone.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little something right now. I deer hunt down there a lot. Well, I've quit hunting out of a deer stand, a climber or a lean-to stand or anything like that, because the deer will spot you. I've noticed that over the years. That deer will pick you out. If you're in a tree, he'll see you before he gets close enough to you for you to get him, to get a shot.
Oh, and I tell you what, if you bow hunt, I'll tell you a little story of my own. Yeah. I took a shot at a doe, and I don't know what was off. I saw the arrow fly right over her back. The minute I released it, okay. So she jumps and she just trots off. She didn't sprint off, but she had a mark on her neck. There was a mark on her neck where I could identify her. And so every time I saw that doe, and I saw her 2 or 3 times through the next few seasons, but every time I hunted out of that stand and she walked in with 3 or 4 younger deer behind her, she would turn around and she would herd them away. She remembered she got shot at. Sir. and they learn
right.
to start looking up in the trees for hunters. So I know
That's
exactly what you're talking about. And boy, I cussed that doe for 2 or 3 years because she would just ruin it for me, you know.
Yeah, you ruin a hunt for you in a heartbeat.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what I'm getting at is I'm wondering if these creatures don't use the trees. Climb up in a tree and wait for him to walk under them and jump out on them.
Yeah, it's a good point.
You know, why else would they be looking up in a tree? Not every deer, you know, thinks that there's a deer hunter. I mean, not every deer thinks to look up in a tree if it hadn't been shot at before. And not every deer's been shot out of a tree stand. But I know exactly what you're saying. That's why I'm saying, why aren't these, you know, what to say these creatures aren't using the trees to jump out to ambush deer to catch them?
They probably are.
And that's got all of them trained to look up.
Yeah, it's like we're not ruining it. The Bigfoot's ruining it for us.
Yeah, exactly. They are.
Yeah.
I've learned now that I have better luck on the ground than I do sitting in a tree stand.
Well, they make some real comfortable chairs that'll strap to a tree now where you can sit right down your feet on the ground.
Yes, sir. I got a Millennium. That's what I use.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't remember the name of it, but my son got one. He said, take this and try this. And I said, I'm not going to sit on the ground. He goes, no, just try it.
Oh, yeah. And it's nice, isn't it?
Boy, it's so much better than climbing up in that stand. And I've got a couple of permanent strap-on stands that have that Millennium seat. Man, I love those seats. I almost thought about putting some on my boat.
Well, they're nice in a boat, especially in the summertime. They'll keep you cool.
Right.
You know, that mesh is not near as hot as that darn fabric or you know,
plastic
Naga hide seat, as they call them.
Yeah, yeah.
By the way, where they get Naga hide from? I've never caught one.
From the Naga hide farm, I guess. I don't know.
Yes, Naga hide farm. I guess so, something like that. I don't get Naga hide to grow in the wild.
It's like my wife says, who goes out and catches these frogs that we get to order at the restaurant? And I said, well, they come from the frog farm. Oh, there ain't no frog farm. I said, yes, there is.
Yes, there is.
Crawfish farms, catfish farms, and there's frog farms.
You better believe it. That's how they're able to catch them and sell them like that.
Yeah.
Them Cajuns down there, they know how to do it too. I'm going to tell you. Down in South Louisiana, them guys, they got it going on.
Oh, they do. They do. Do you know, I keep going off on tangents, but you keep reminding me of things. Do you remember, Holiday Inn was started back in the 50s by Kimmons Wilson. He's from Memphis, Tennessee. And I work for a steel company there in Memphis, and we sold him all of his Holiday Inn signs. And
okay.
I didn't handle that account. But a guy who sat 2 or 3 booths down from me handled that account. But I got to meet Mr. Wilson, and he was such a nice guy. One of his, you can go online and search for Kimmons Wilson's top 10 business advice or whatever, and he's got all kind of these little queries that he used to say. And but he walked in the office one day, and he had this real, Mr. Wilson, he was a short man. I bet he was 5'3", maybe 5'4". Yeah. And he was kind of round. He was, he was round, and he was just a real jolly guy, just happy guy. He walked in the office one day, and he had this big farmer-looking guy come in with him. And this guy had a big straw hat on and a T-shirt and some old wore-out overalls and old work boots, muddy work boots. And it was strange to see this guy with Mr. Wilson, because he always drove a Cadillac, and he always wore a shirt and tie and a sport coat, and his shoes were shine. He just looked good. And he walks in with this guy, and he goes, "Hey, Cam, how you doing?" I said, I'm doing good, Mr. Wilson. Let me introduce you to my friend, and I don't remember his name. Let's just call him Boudreaux. That's what everybody down in Louisiana is named, I think, Boudreaux.
Oh, yeah.
He said, here's my friend Boudreaux. He and I are getting in the frog farm business. He's going to start a frog farm, and we're going to make a lot of money on selling frogs. And so he was investing in this guy's frog farm. And anyway, it just reminded me of that story.
I mean, I tell you what, he's businessman. He's very smart. He knew what he was doing.
Oh man, he was a genius, just a genius.
Yes, sir. Well, it's like Sam Walton. He was too. I mean, honestly, he'd roll over his grave if he knew what was going on with the Walmart nowadays.
I know. I mean,
well,
back
terrible.
to Bigfoot now. Where were we? God, I'm so sorry, man. I'm such a loser.
No, you're fine. You're fine. We were just talking about the deer and the deer seeing them and feeling like a deer sees them in the trees and such.
Yeah, they just vanish. I mean, and I hear that all the time, and I have no experience with it, but I read that all the time, and it's fascinating stuff. So, is there anything going forward? Any more experiences after? Let's see, that last one was 97, right?
Yes. Now I've had continuous experiences as far as things happening. The same interaction with the wood knock around our camp. The ticking on the porch. My brother and I went down to the camp last year, and we had just got to camp that night, and we were unloading all of our gear, putting it in the cabin, had turned the lights on, got everything going, and we were just pilfering around inside the camp, starting a fire, getting everything ready to stay. Well, I walked out on the back porch, and our porch is like 4 foot off the ground on the back. No, it's closer to 5 foot off the ground on the back side of our camp because it kind of overlooks the bayou behind us. Well, I walk down on the back porch, and I do this because I'll go outside and take a leak. Guilty. I'm a man. I do that. So I walk down on the back porch to take a leak, and I'm standing on the back porch, and I glance over, and the back door is open, so the light's coming out of the back, from the kitchen, shining on the back porch. And there's a huge wet spot on the porch where something had been there. I mean, and I walked over and I looked, and the water's still dripping through the boards. And this is a covered porch, so it didn't rain there, and it hadn't been raining. We'd not thrown anything outside. We're just getting there, and this water is soaked. And I looked down at the ground, and it's soaked on the ground out about a foot away from the porch. The ground is soaking wet. So something had walked up there and stood there and leaned on that porch, listening and looking for us on that porch. And I just walked out and saw it, saw that water there. Apparently it had just, when I opened the door, it got away, before I had a chance to see it. But, I mean, they're curious. So, yeah, that's another thing. My brother was down there last year, sitting in a rocking chair in the living room, playing his fiddle. He's got his lights lit, inside the camp, so he can see, some low, dim light, of course. He's sitting there playing his violin fiddle, and he goes to get up, and he happens to look and sees at the top of the window. These windows are probably 6 foot, to the top of them, maybe a little over 6 foot to the top of the windows in the cabin. And he kind of glances, and he sees something move like it was bent down looking in the window, and it raised up. He could see that movement as he stood up. Well, he walked outside and walked around the corner of the cabin because he had to go out the back door to go around to the corner where that window was. And there was a big wet spot right there by the window, to the side of the window. And you could see water on the porch where he stepped off the porch, going back toward the woods. So, I mean, that was an encounter that he had. I mean, he didn't see it dead on, but he saw something there. And nothing is that big to look down into a window. And when you look, you can see it move up, up, kind of duck out of the way. So it was something else. And I mean, these encounters, this happens constantly. My wife and I, we had our home down there. We had actually bought a place and moved down there so we'd be close to our place there in the woods. And we walked outside one night to let my lab out to take a pee at night before she goes to bed. Routine, every night we do that. At 9 o'clock, she goes outside and pees and then comes back in and we go to bed. Well, we walked outside and we heard this god-awful screaming across the road from us. It's probably 100 yards in the woods across the road from us behind another camp. Now, granted, there's nobody else down there. This is after hunting season has gone out. Everybody's left. There's camps all around us, but nobody lives down there but us full time. So we was a full-time resident. Well, across the road, you could hear something screaming, as in, like, in agony. Just a scream, just a long, drawn-out squall. And it just kept doing it. It would do it one time, it'd wait, 10, 15 seconds and do it again, and 10, 15 seconds, do it again, 10, 15 seconds, do it again. My dog stood right between my wife and myself, bristles up, and would not move, would not bark. All she did was whine. She wouldn't make an attempt to go out there. She wanted no part of it. But this thing kept on doing that, and it was walking the Bajou bank that was out in the woods behind that camp, screaming, and you could hear it as it got further and further and further and further away till it finally went out of hearing.
Holy crap, man.
I mean, I can't explain what it was. I wish I would have had some way of recording it, because there's no animal that I know of that makes that sound. Not in North America. No animal.
Yeah, I've heard that 1,000 times. 1,000
Yes, sir.
times. We're we're pushing an hour here. We're almost at an hour, and I try to keep them, within a 45 to an hour and 15.
I understand. Yes, sir.
If there's first, I want to ask you: have you got any other encounters that you wanted to get to? Because we can get to it. We can make this long.
Well, none of mine, none of my own encounters. The rest have been with my brother that have been recent. And the only thing he has had, what he's had happen is, you're going to laugh, but he's had basketballs showing up at his house. I mean, he lives out in the middle of nowhere, out in just out in the country.
Right.
And there's houses every quarter mile or so, but there's scopes of woods in between. Well, behind his house, there's 80 acres there that belonged to a friend of ours family for years, and they had it cut over several years ago. Well, for some reason or other, these basketballs have started appearing in this creek bottom down there behind his house in the thicket. Well, he'd pick them up and, kind of put them somewhere together. He'd pick one up, walk down through the woods. He's farting around out there, just doing nothing, cleaning a place to deer hunt or something like that out. And he'd find them, he'd kill them and put them in a spot. And he had like 4 of them in a spot in the woods down there on top of a hill up where the creek stood and washed them away. He just put them up there, He just does stuff like that. He's kind of different. I mean, I love my brother, but he's different.
Okay. He'd fit right in with us then.
Yes, he would. He sure does. Anyway, the next morning, maybe a week after that, I guess, after he'd found all, this happened over a period of, a couple of weeks. That he found all these basketballs and put them up there. Well, maybe a week or so later, he finds a basketball in the lot with his horses. His horse lot backs up to the woods where he found these balls. Well, there's no creek there. There's no way that ball got washed up there. There's no houses behind him. There's nobody that messes around back there. So, but this ball was in that horse lot, right in the middle of it, placed there.
That is so crazy.
And the horses would stand and look at the woods and not go close to them. They just stand there and look and watch. You tell something was out there, but they didn't, they wouldn't go over there. It wouldn't go close to the woods. It wouldn't go down to the back side of the lot next to the woods. So that happened to him. And then he went down to check on those basketballs again to see if one of them was missing. Well, it wasn't. There was all 4 still there. But when he got down there was a football about 8 foot up in the tree, and a little sapling that was right there where those basketballs was. There was a sapling right there. There was a football about 8 foot in the tree stuck up in the limbs.
Oh, my gosh.
Exactly.
He's got them all over him, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. And think about this, you would not think that because of the homes and everything that's around. But there's a creek that runs through there. It connects to a bayou that runs all the way down to Louisiana. And then there's a dump that this creek starts at about 10 miles away that's been a dump for 50 years. And I've heard through other people there's been sightings there. It's like these creatures are using that dump to get food and stuff like that out of it, I guess. I don't know. But they're using these creeks. They always use these creeks as travel routes. And I think that's what's going on. It was watching my brother and seeing what he was doing and interacting with him.
That is, that's so interesting. Now, let me ask you one more question. Now you have a lifetime. I mean, it doesn't go on all the time, but I mean, you've been aware of these things since you were 5 years old. Have you ever spent any time looking for them?
No. I've never went looking, ever. The only time I went looking is when I found that structure and I went back to it and I felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. I never felt like I was in any harm's way except that one time. And I don't know why. It was just, but I explained to you what happened there. But I kind of feel like this. If they want me to see them, they'll let me know. I don't go looking for them. I feel like that's a mistake.
So you're not into the research thing?
No, I'm not into that. I don't feel like that's something that I need to be doing. And I honestly feel like I don't think anybody else should be doing it either.
You probably don't have time, do you?
Well, I do now. I'm retired. I'm disabled and I can't do much anymore. I've had heart surgery back in 2015 and I finally got to the point where my heart took me out of the work environment. So I can't do it anymore like I used to. So I'm just trying to take care of my little 30-acre spot here and my puppy dog and my chickens.
There you go. Now, growing up, did you hear about these things from other sources, from other people, from guys in high school you hunted with, or guys in the duck blind? Y'all sitting in a duck blind? Anybody start talking about it? Are they all just?
No, actually, I never did. That's kind of strange now that you mention that, and I think back. No, we never had conversations like that. It never was even brought up. So that's kind of odd, but we never did. I mean, the only thing I did, I pulled one on my ex-wife's cousin. We'd gone to a lake fishing one night, setting out yo-yos, and we was way out in the middle of nowhere. We was in a 4-wheel drive, and we had to winch 2 or 3 times to get in there. And in other words, if you had to get out there in a hurry, it wasn't happening.
Right.
And we're way down in the Sling River bottoms. I mean, out in the middle of nowhere. And I was picking at him. He's a big old boy too. But I said something about Bigfoot. Picking at him a little bit. And next thing I know, I got a nice, warm, hot fire, real close, and it just kept getting bigger. But that's as close as I've ever come to discussing it or having a conversation about it or anything like that with anybody other than, honestly, my wife, you, and my brother. That's about it. My son, he's picked up on a few things, but we don't talk much about it. I just, he knows what's going on. We just don't talk about it a lot.
Are you going to send him this video, a link to this video?
I probably will. He is very perceptive, to say the least, and he picks up on things, and he's got a lot of me in him. He's quiet about it a lot of times, and normally I don't talk about it, but sometimes I just need to.
I know. I mean, I put my voice is on videos 3 or 4 times a week, and my kids never listen. I'm like, what? Do y'all ever listen to my videos? And they're like, Dad, we know it's you. We can't listen to that. It's you. And I'm like, well, so what? But
they
anyway,
listen to the real deal, right? That's cool, though.
They tell their friends about it, and that's kind of funny. And then their friends will ask me, if I'm at their house or something. But anyway, this has all been very interesting. Now, last thing, before we started recording, you and I were talking about well, we were talking about a couple of topics with Bigfoot, and you had made a couple of comments regarding the aggressiveness of these things. In other words, you have some opinions on the disposition and the demeanor of these creatures. And I'm not asking you to rehash that, but I usually ask a guest, is there anything you'd like to tell the audience that is an opinion or if you feel like is a fact about the creature itself? Are they, I mean, whatever it might be, if you have any parting words, go ahead and take as long as you need to talk about that.
Well, I appreciate that. I actually do have some things I'd like to say about that. These creatures have never, some people think they're aggressive. Some people think that they're a nuisance. I have never heard of anybody being hurt other than the stories of the Fouke monster down in, South, South Arkansas and around the, Monroe or Freeport, Louisiana area.
Yeah. That
happened back years ago. But I have never felt threatened but one time. And I think that was just something, I don't know. I can't explain why, but I feel like they ought to be left alone as far as, trying to find out what they are. And when they want you to know, they'll let you know. They're smarter than what we give them credit for. They can figure you out just by looking at you. They don't have to. It's like they can see into your soul whenever they look at you. They know if you're a threat, if you're not. And I feel like they can read you like a book and never have to get close to you. They can see by your posture, how you carry yourself, whether you mean them harm or not. And I try to live in harmony with nature. Of course, I'm a sportsman. Yes, I hunt. I do all kinds of things like that and enjoy it. But I would never take a life on something that I didn't need it for sustenance. So, these animals have never done me wrong. They've never hurt me. They've never caused problems. They've interacted. We'll say that. They've interacted. And honestly, I feel blessed that they have. Because there's not many people that do. Yes. So
very fortunate to have come in contact with them. So
I feel so. I feel that way. And I don't know if that's part of my Native American heritage, if that's some of it, or I don't know. I can't explain it. But I think it's all an individual. And if it wants you to know it's there, it'll let you know. It will let you know whether you want to see it or not. And you might see it and not want to. But if you do, go ahead.
Some people in the audience, I share videos of me riding my bike and walking back here in these woods with my dogs. Now, let me say that the woods that I'm in are not anywhere as remote as some of those bottoms where you guys came up. Those are some of the, they're as wild as some of the vast expanses of the Northwest territory, Alaska, that, there's places in Alaska I think people have never set foot, but.
Oh, they have. I worked there for 5 years on the Alaskan pipeline, so I know there are.
But in a compact area, geographically, those South Arkansas, North Louisiana, I mean, we have swamps around here and stuff, but I mean, they're nothing like where you're at. But in a compact area, those areas are as wild as they get. And they go on for miles because it's not economical to do developments there or build. It's just too much mud, too much water. There's too much water diversion that would have to happen. So those places just stay wild. And so you are from a part of the country, and I kind of envy you because of the fishing. I love to catch brim and crappie and
oh, me too,
bass. And but you're in a great place. Duck hunt, all the ducks. I mean, just all of that.
Oh, yeah.
And my mother always told me, she goes, we've never understood why you like these lowland areas over the mountains. They always want to go to the mountains for a vacation, and I like the beach and the swamps and
Me
and
too.
the heat
Yes,
and the
sir.
humidity, I just love it all. I don't know why.
Well, it gets in your blood is what it does. It's just it's what you feel comfortable with, what you enjoy.
Yeah, I feel like I can breathe better. It's like there's so much vegetation, it feels like it's oxygen rich. I don't know. I just like it. But all that said, you're in a real wild area, and if there's any place those things, these Bigfoots or Sasquatch, whatever name you'd like to give them, if there's ever an environment where these things could thrive, because the food sources down there are abundant.
Yeah, endless. They're endless.
From fish to hoofed animals to tree climbing animals, raccoons, possums, anything they want to eat.
Yeah.
It's the perfect environment for it, and that's why all that stuff from Falk, Arkansas, the Boggy Creek Monster, all down in that area is so the honey. What is it? The Honey Island.
Honey Island Swamp Monster.
Yeah, it's
yes.
the same type of area.
It is.
That's why so many stories come out of there, and they make me believe that most of them are probably true, because the environment is so rich and good for those animals. So,
when you start hearing from men that are 60 and 70 years old that have never talked about it before, you can take that. You can about take that to the bank, because they're not looking for anything. They just opening it up and telling you something that happened to them. They have nothing. I have nothing to gain from this. I don't want anything out of this.
right. You're going to get a T-shirt. You're going to get a T-shirt out of it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do.
Hey,
thank
I want
you so
much. If I forget to get it after we quit recording, send me an email with your address and I'll send you one. But, well, listen.
I may have to send you enough money for a second one, because I got to get my wife one. She'd love one.
I'll send you two. That ain't no problem.
Well, no, I'd be glad to pay for them.
I know you would. I ain't taking your money. But listen, you have been a wonderful interview guest and so gracious to come on and talk to everyone and give us your time. And I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you, John. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And thank you for your show, because honestly, it gives people that have no place to talk about things that's happened to them, and they think they're crazy or think somebody's going to think they're crazy. They're not crazy. Not in the least bit. So don't cast stones whenever you don't know. Your opinion's your opinion, but don't mean that just because it's your opinion doesn't mean it's true.
That's right. Well, and I've said this several times in different videos that if you're going to talk about it to people who you're not familiar with, or just be prepared to get laughed at. I mean, because it's part of it. And so, I mean, it's like if I walked into the co-op and told those guys down there that I killed a 18-point elk down here in the tip of river bottoms, they're going to laugh me. Yeah. They're going to laugh me out of there.
Well, of course, you would expect anything different.
To them, to people who haven't heard these stories, it's the same kind of thing. So that's just goes with it. But you're right. I agree with you. Don't be, don't hold back, and especially if you want to get it off your chest, do it.
If you got it to say it. And I hope what I've said today helps somebody else, and lets people know that they're not crazy. These things are there. They're real. If you have an encounter, hopefully it's a good one. It shouldn't be a bad one. But if you do have an encounter, it's because there's something about you that's special, I think.
The more I read these accounts, and the more I kind of get a feel for, you can read a story and kind of get a feel for someone's personality. Especially when you talk to them, like talking to you. I've got, just over the last hour, I've gotten to know you a lot better, and I can read you pretty good. So I think you're right about that.
I think so. I mean, it's just my opinion, but I honestly feel that way. And, if I can be proved wrong, okay, that's fine. But, I'm not perfect by any means, and I'm not trying to say what I say is right and nobody else is. I'm not going to say that. I will not, because this is my opinion. This is what's happened to me. This is my interaction. This is what's going on in my world. Doesn't mean it's what goes on in somebody else.
All right, everybody, we're going to wind this up, and it's an hour and 15 minutes. I'll probably edit it down to an hour and 5 or something like that with all my uhs and ahs and stuff like that. Maybe a couple of my stories, which were boring. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you to John for being willing to come on. And we'll see you guys on the next video. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
On Fowler Street.